I.S.U.P.K. 53rd Annual Lord Passover.
53rd Annual Lord's Passover is going to be held down here in Florida.
It's going down.
You're here tonight to get a chance to be righteous enough to be worthy of God coming to save you.
That's right.
It's going down. The Lord's 53rd Annual Passover.
When we say we no cowards, we stop that business. We no cowards up in here.
Book your hotels now at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, the IHG Hotel, 301 Tucker Lane, Cocoa Beach, Florida, 32926.
Here's a lot of men down. You dealing with the men of war. We at war. I sided with the
Comes with all your dishes, pots, pans, forks, knives.
I kind of like this. This is like an apartment, and a hotel. You know what I mean? This here, right here, is about to be holy ground. It's going to be holy ground. All our beautiful, wonderful brothers and sisters from all over the world. You understand? We can boast that now. Brothers and sisters coming not only from every state, but from all over the world. I heard the numbers this year is ridiculous. We had to buy out the whole hotel.
Friday, April 15th at the Space Coast Convention Center.
My camp undefeated. You cannot debate. You just want the clout. We just want the grades. I'm just trying to get it.
This is going to be glorious.
We don't give a fuck. You can see it in our faces. Got it out the mud. Straight up out the base.
All right, let's clap it up. Shalom, DC, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahanna. Since 1969, we've been teaching the truth of the Bible, and the truth is that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians are the true Jews according to the Bible, and that the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. What we're going to get into tonight is what the true meaning of the 49ers are. If anybody is a San Francisco 49er fan, listen up. Your team comes from this. You know, everybody thinks the 49ers is one thing, but there's another side to that moniker. You know what I'm saying? That nickname. And what we're going to get into is the actual genocide. The genocide, the sanctioned genocide, the sanctioned rape, the sanctioned murder, the sanctioned massacre, the sanctioned slavery that the oppressor has put on our brothers out in for the Native Americans that was out in California during the gold rush of 1948 and all the way up into the 1870s, I want to say. We're going to get into that. And how can I say that it was sanctioned? We're going to read some actual history on what our Native American brothers and sisters have been through. This is actual history according to our oppressor, how he recorded history. Now, what we learned about, you know, the fact of the matter was very cleaned up. You know what I'm saying? It didn't have the atrocities that really occurred. How did all these men and women rush to the California Gold Coast to search for gold? How did they, you know, were there people there? Was land taken away? Because right now, you know, you can see, you know, how history repeats itself, because we had treaties, our Native American sisters had treaties with the U.S. government saying that, you know, X amount of land belonged to the Native Americans. Then they so-called discovered oil, or they wanted to put a pipeline right directly smack dab through the middle of their land, and the Native Americans was like, no, we do not want you to do this. And what did they do? They went ahead and did it anyway. They forcibly removed the Native Americans from their home, from their land that had, you know what I'm saying, how the press says, you know, this is my land. This is my home. I got papers on this. You know what I'm saying? The government says that this land, this plot of land, or this section of the city, or this section of the town belongs to me. This property belongs to me because I got paperwork on it. This is exactly what the Native Americans said. You know, we got paperwork and we have an agreement with the American government saying that this land is ours. And what did they do? They took that piece of paper and they wiped their behinds with it and told them to move, or we're going to forcibly remove you from the land. And that's exactly what they did at Standing Rock. How come we're not talking about Standing Rock anymore? You know what I'm saying? They forcibly removed our brothers by force. It was all over the news. It was all over, you know, it was international news to boot. You know what I'm saying? And what happened? The U.S. government still got their way. Well, what happened, you know, what happened at Standing Rock happened in California during the so-called gold rush of the mid to late 1800s, right? And we're going to get into that, how they forcibly removed the Native Americans and how the population dwindled. And we're going to see the population, you know, from what it was before they found gold until, you know, right up until the wells ran dry. Right? If you could get me to that first article, Baba Shaw.
California genocide. The California genocide was the killing of thousands of indigenous peoples of California by United States government agents and private citizens in the 19th century. It began following the American conquest of California from Mexico.
Hold on. Which article are you reading?
The California genocide.
California little known genocide. The History Channel article. We're gonna get into the other one. We're gonna get into the other one, but let's do this one first.
Concert.
All right, let's get it.
California's little known genocide. Up to 16,000 Native Americans were murdered in cold blood after California became a state. Gold from the American River. Samuel Brand walked up and down the streets of San Francisco holding up a bottle of pure gold dust. His triumphant announcement and the discovery of gold at nearby Sutter's Mill in 1848 ushered in a new era for California, one in which millions of settlers rushed to the little-known frontier in a wild race for riches.
So what they did was they heard that there was gold in them dar hills, right? And a bunch of people, millions of people would, when in fact there wasn't, the population wasn't that great in those days. You know what I'm saying? We could say millions of people right now. You know, the population of DC, like the actual district, people who live here in DC, somewhere around, it's less than 250,000, right? During the day, people from surrounding, you know, cities and states, people come from all different states to come into DC, and that population swelled up to like 2 million people, right? Now that's with vehicles, motor vehicles, that's with paved highways and you know, motorways that are synchronous to get people in and out of the city flowing, you know, in a flowing manner. That population swells and ebbs every single day, right? But whereas in a time of you know, horse and buggy, millions of people coming into one swath of land is a really big deal. And to get that much people into to get that much people over there had to be some sort of, you know, had to be some great news or some big prosperity promise, you know what I'm saying? And that prosperity promise, or quote, well, not that dream, was gold. Once someone found gold and it was bragging everywhere, that led to damn near the whole nation coming all the way up to San Francisco area, and that's where the gold rush was held within the San Francisco area. So they have millions and millions of people coming over there, not knowing if there was actual real gold there, or was just the promise of gold. And what they wanted to do to get that gold, we're about to read what they actually did to get that gold, and how the government helped them to get that gold. Keep going.
Come. But though gold spelled prosperity and power for the white settlers who arrived in California in 1849 and after, it meant disaster for the state's peaceful indigenous population.
So hold on, they said the state's what kind of people?
The state's peaceful indigenous population.
I thought, the Native Americans, the so-called Native Americans were savages. They were listless and they had no bearing about them. They were nothing but brutes and savages who talked in grunts and whatnot. But according to this, they were some peaceful people. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the way the U.S. I should say and I'm going to say the way the U.S. government deals with each other in a civil manner, how the way when one person talks, everybody else shuts the hell up, and then they allow them to get whatever it is they get out, and then they will allow someone else to respond. That whole decency conversation comes from the Native Americans. The powwows that the Native Americans had, they gathered a bunch of the leaders, the surrounding leaders, and the elders within the villages to come together, discuss ideas, get rid of the bad ideas and the bad practices, and implement some new practices to improve the communities, the tribes, the welfare, the livelihood. If you don't believe me, just look at just look at like some of these videos of the oppressor out in like Europe, how the way they're like talking, back and forth, they're bantering back and forth at each other, and they're getting into actual fights. Like the equivalent of senators and whatnot, and cabinet members are actually throwing bows at people. You know what I'm saying? Like there's actual, footage of these other countries doing that. Look at, the UK where someone could be talking and then you just hear chatter in the background, they're trying to interrupt. That's their way of communicating with each other. But when they came over here, the way that people are actually, converse, one person would talk, everybody else would shut the hell up, and then they will let another person speak. That's just one. This is one part of the savage culture that the oppressor has stolen from us. But yet, they're civilized and we're savages. Our people are savages. You know who's savages? What type of people? What type of beings are savages? Beings that bring disease. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the ways that they killed us. They killed the Native American people. God's chosen people was disease, because they didn't know how to clean themselves properly, thoroughly, on a regular basis. Those people are savages. Keep going.
Come. In just 20 years, 80% of California's Native Americans were wiped out.
How much?
80%.
So in 2 decades, which is really, really not a lot of time, 80% of the indigenous population. Now you may read the title and the foreword. It said up to 16,000 people were killed. Up to 16,000 Native American people were killed. That wasn't 80% of the population. Even though that is a large number, that was not 80% of the population. There's a distinguished. This is a distinguished group. This number right here was murdered, cold blood. This is the cold blood murder of the Native American people. Up to 16,000 people were murdered. Not talking about the people that were displaced. Not talking about the people that were put into slavery. Not talking about the people that died in slavery, that were overworked. You know what I'm saying? That were starved. That died of disease. Those numbers go into 80% of the population. This 16,000 was killed, thrusted through by the sword. That's what this number represents. But go back to what is it in 20 years, and 90. That's not even a generation. In 20 years, 80% of the population had been wiped out by the real savages. What type of being on earth comes into a place and it destroys the native landscape?
A sociopath.
A sociopath, yeah, but that's not what I'm looking for. We'll give it another shot.
I'm gonna just say the devil, but that's too easy.
Well, yeah, that's not what that's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at a virus. A virus. Just think of the plague that's going on right now, the coronavirus. If anybody's had the coronavirus, they know that is a short time for the incubation stage that happens, and then you'll start showing symptoms. For those that do show symptoms, and there's a lot of people that do show symptoms, you go from feeling okay to feeling maybe a little bad to going flying off a cliff. Your health wise, you're feeling terrible, like you're about to die. You know what I'm saying? Just think of that. The time frame from feeling good, feeling like there's nothing wrong, when a lot of times that's that phase right there. That's when it really spreads, because you have it, you don't feel like you have it, but then you can contaminate others, right? So from that time frame when you have it and you don't feel any symptoms, all the way up until the point where you feeling like you're on death's door. That time frame is so short, just like this time frame right here. It's 20 years where it dropped 80%. That time frame where the virus takes hold of your immune system and tanks it to where a lot of people throughout the whole world have died from it. And that's just one virus. Other viruses that come in and ravage you within hours or days. You know what I'm saying? That is highly contagious and very deadly. That's what our oppressor is. They come into a place, they take over, and they spread like a virus, giving out disease, and then they mutate and then give out other disease, and you think you got it cornered, and you think you got it all put together in a tight little bow, when they come out and destroy in a whole different manner, whole different way. And the way that you could do to stem it or slow it down or stop it completely, that you have done it over here, is no longer you can no longer use that method. You have to go to a different method. Why? Because these viruses mutate. And I'm talking about our oppressors specifically. Right now, they don't come up to you and say, "You nigger, don't look at me in the eye," or I'm gonna have you hung. Nah. What they do is they say, you don't belong around here. And then they'll call their power, which is the police, and then they'll do away with you in other manners. Or they'll push drugs into our community, and then have that virus destroy us from the inside out. Or worse, they'll set up churches all around our communities and then have us tear each other apart. That's a virus that must be stopped. And the only way we can stop that type of virus is to one, know who the hell they are. You want to know who they are? Get me Ecclesiastes 12 and 10, if you could, Baba Shaw.
Come.
Okay, we got a question from Michael Smith. Is that same? That's the same dude. Okay. This question, this person, I don't know if he's a brother or not. This question this dude is asking, what about the cities of India the true Northern Kingdom tribe taken in the Arab slave trade. Prove to me about that. Prove to me that they're the true, like you say, the true Northern Kingdom. Prove to me. Where is it? Where are their curses of the cities people in India are have the same curses of the children of Israel? Prove that to me. If you say that that's the true people, then you prove that. You know, it sounds like he's a damn Elamite. Why are you trying to give the Lord's chosen people inheritance to a people who puts menstrual cycle blood on their forehead?
Right.
Them niggas is nasty, disgusting. Why are you trying to give the Lord's chosen people's inheritance to a people who thinks a cow is God? So much so that they take a cup. Yes, they take a cup, and as that cow is pissing, put it up under that cow and then drink that piss. You trying to tie the Lord's chosen people to that people? You a goddamn you are a bastard. They are not our people. Never have been, never will be. Don't try and turn anybody our inheritance and try and give it out to anybody else. You got what I want?
Concert. Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Never trust thine enemy. The Most High calls the oppressor our enemy. Never trust them. Those treaties that the so-called Native Americans made with the U.S. government were made in vain. Why? Because we were forced to trust them in a way to say, when I say we were forced to trust them, we were forced to sign these treaties, and we upheld the Native Americans, the so-called northern tribes, upheld their end to all these treaties. The U.S. is the one who broke every single last one of the treaties with the Native Americans. The Most High says, never trust your enemy. Right? Keep going. Keep going.
For like as iron rusteth.
Just like iron rusts. Just like a piece of iron surely will rust. Keep going.
So is his wickedness.
So is his wickedness. Now, how do you know that the Most High is saying that that our oppressor is our enemy, according to this scripture? Okay, now we all know that, you know, or maybe we don't know, but according to the Most High, we just read out the Bible. The Most High told us to never trust our enemy. Now, you might be saying, a bunch of Christians might be saying, how do you equate that to the white man being our enemy? It looks like you're going where I need you to go. Now, how do you equate that? Now, this is how you're supposed to read the Bible. Line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. A lot of Christians say, I've read the book or the Bible front to back. That's not how the way you're supposed to read the Bible. This is how the way you're supposed to read the Bible. You take a precept and you put it with another precept that goes hand in hand together. And I'm about to put two precepts together where the Most High tells us not to trust our enemy. And then we're going to go into exactly who our enemy is, not was, who our enemy is, because our enemy back then is still our enemy today. You understand? Now tell me, what type of people is this describing that the Most High called our enemy? Call it out and tell me what you and tell me what you're reading.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So it says the Lord will bring thee into Egypt. What does Egypt mean? Egypt means, if we read Exodus 21 and 2, you'll see Egypt means bondage. All right, you'll write that scripture down. You'll see Egypt means bondage. That land that we were in bondage in was historically called Mizraim. Wasn't called Egypt. Egypt was synonymous with what they did to the Lord's chosen people. They held us in bondage, right? So the Most High said he's going to bring us back into bondage again, but this time he's going to do it with ships. How did we get here? How did the so-called, native, how did we get here?
With ships.
We got here with ships in the belly of cargo slave ships, tied with chains one to another. So much so that we could not turn, turn to try and get comfortable. Stacked however many feet high. If you was on the bottom, you got 4 or 5 rows of piss, vomit, crap, blood coming down on you, because that's how they treated us. Packed us in like sardines. That's how we got here, right? Keep going.
Come. By the way whereof I spake unto thee.
The Most High said, by the way whereof I spake. The way he said, the way we're going to get here, that's how the way it was going to happen. This not only happened to the so-called blacks that were brought over here in slavery. This also happened to the Native Americans who was over here that were brought over to the old world, so-called old world. Same way, in slavery, in chains. Keep going.
Come. Thou shalt see it no more again.
We ain't never gonna see our homeland again the way we were, right? Keep going.
Come. And there ye.
And there what?
Ye.
And there we, once we actually get off those cargo slave ships, those of us that actually survived that voyage, once we get off those cargo slave ships, keep going,
shall be sold unto your enemies.
And there we shall be sold unto our enemies. Now, what does that mean? And there we shall be sold into our enemies. That means once we get out there, we're gonna should we survive, we're going to be sold on auction slave blocks. They're going to be held. There will be auctions held to sell us. And we're going to be sold what?
And ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
And we're going to be sold to our enemies. Who are we sold to? Who are we sold to? This is literal. Okay, so what we're reading is prophecy. When this was written, when this was told to the children of Israel, it did not happen. So it was prophecy. It took a few thousand years for it to actually happen. But once it happened, now it became history. Who sold us once we got into the new world? What people sold us? Edomites. Yes, that's a biblical term for them. But what do we call them today? What do they call themselves today? Caucasians. You cannot mistake me for a Caucasian. You cannot mistake this brother here, Pagaibawa, for a Caucasian. You know what I'm saying? There is no way you can mistake the slave for the slave master at this time. The scripture says that they was going to sell us into they was going to sell, the enemy was going to sell us, right? How are they going to sell us? Keep going.
Come. For bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
So they're going to sell us for bondmen and bondwomen, right? They're going to sell us for slave men and slave women, and no one's going to take us out of that condition at all. You think we're slave? We're free now? We ain't free now. That's not what we are. We have no power. Our neighborhoods are not our neighborhoods. We just live there. We rent there. We don't own anything in there. And the little of us that actually do own something is insignificant to what our people in general have. And as for you, I told you to tell me who it is. Don't tell me to Google. I ain't Googling nothing. You prove it to me. You're the one who said about something else. If not, shut your mouth. I don't want to hear nothing else. Keep going with that article.
Come. In just 20 years, 80% of California's Native Americans were wiped out.
In 20 years, 80% of them, 80% of our Native American brothers and sisters was wiped out. 20 years. Right? Keep going.
Come. And though some died because of the seizure of their land or diseases caught from new settlers, between 9,000 and 16,000 were murdered in cold blood.
Cold blood. These were massacres. We're going to get into that in the other article. These were straight massacres. What is a massacre? When someone is very outnumbered or outarmed, or someone who's attacking another people when they cannot defend themselves. You know what I'm saying? A massacre. You know, the oppressor fames himself on massacres like the St. Valentine's Day massacre, where criminals, thugs, came in and pretended to be like police from another rival group, and they disarmed them and lined them up. They give them a chance to fight back. Lined them up, turned them around, and shot them in the back. And everybody wants to be them, those people. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to be Italian gangsters. They glamorize that cowardice act. They like a sniper. They glamorize being a sniper when you would have to lay in wait like a snake in the grass and then strike when no one's looking. You know what I'm saying? That's the oppressor's way of fighting. They don't come up on you toe to toe, man to man, eye to eye. Give them a fair chance of defending themselves. They lay in wait and ambush you. That's how the oppressor is.
Sorry, sir. Aren't the Italian mob, whatever, they're the originators of the drive-by? I can't say that they're the originators of the drive-by, but I understand where you're getting from. I know they did that a lot. You know what I'm saying? I know they did that a lot, but I can't say that they were the originators of that. There's plenty of things that the oppressor has done to defame himself. We can choose any number of them. You know what I'm saying? We could choose any number of them, just like this cowardice Saint Valentine's Day massacre. We can go to the school to prison pipeline. We can go to the force, the drugs and being forced into our communities. We can go to all of that sort of stuff. You know what I'm saying? We can go to the forced sterilization of our people in order for them to try and get them into this stinking nation. There's plenty of stuff. We can go to Christianity. How the way they push that on us, and then we in turn we hate ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We can go to the abortion agenda, and how they get us to they get our women to choose their careers over having a family, or to brainwash us into thinking that it takes $150,000 a year to raise a family. So the brothers go to the sisters and say we cannot afford it because I only make $30,000 a year or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And we can't afford that, so you're gonna have to get this abortion, when that's an absolute lie. You know what I'm saying? Why? How do I know this? Because during the 50s and the 60s and the 40s and the 30s, sisters was having, brothers and sisters was having like 10, 12, 13, 15 kids. My grandmother had like 10 kids. You know what I'm saying? Back in the back in the 50s and the 60s. She wasn't making no my grandfather wasn't making no $150,000.
So that's a damn lie that you need to make all this money just to raise one kid or 2 kids or 3 kids. If that's the case, why are sisters having 3 and 4 kids right now, not making a fraction of that? That's a goddamn lie. We can go to those atrocities that the oppressor, you know, that we know that the oppressor has. As far as the drive-by shooting, they may have invented that. It may have been them. It may not have been them. Maybe, maybe not. But what I do know is they put our people in chains. Right. What I do know is they bash our babies' heads in against the rocks and against trees. What I do know is they raped and pillaged our people and raped our resources and claimed it for their own. That's what I do know. So let's continue on.
Come. The victims of a policy of genocide sponsored by the state of California and gleefully assisted by its newest citizens.
Wait, hold on. Read that last part.
Come. The victims of a policy.
A policy is a mandate. You know, is something it's something put into place from an organization. You know what I'm saying? A guideline. I'm not gonna say a mandate. A policy is like a guideline that someone, an organization, puts into place. And in this case, the guideline that was put into place was from the government, right? And they said it was keep reading. The victims of what?
The victims of a policy of genocide.
Victims of a policy of genocide. You know what a genocide is? A mass extinction of a people. That's what a genocide is. They're trying to kill off this people. Right? Keep going.
Come. Sponsored by the state of California.
Sponsored by the state of California. So this was a government entity chosen to protect its people. You know what I'm saying? To govern this people into prosperity. And their so-called prosperity is meant to kill off another people. Right? Keep reading.
Come. And gleefully.
Gleefully. What does gleefully mean?
Extremely happy.
Extremely happy. These, now you want to call, you know, the so-called Native American savages, these so-called citizens of America, these oppressors, our enemies that the Most High calls them, are happy to oblige in this policy of genocide, are happy to kill the Native American people, so-called Native American people. Keep reading.
Come. And gleefully assisted by its newest citizens.
And they were happy to assist in this. You had some? You had some? You had your hand raised?
No, when you was asking what was the policy, I was just going to say institutional rule.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah, guideline. Yeah, institutional rule. Let's keep going.
Come. Today, California's genocide is one of the most heinous chapters in the state's troubled racial history, which also includes forced sterilizations of people of Mexican descent.
Didn't I just say that?
Yes, you did.
So we know this about about the oppressor, about our enemy. We know this, and this is why the Most High says never trust him. We can get into the forced sterilization of our people. We can get into what happened in the Southwest of the Bath rebellions when they tried to say that the so-called Mexican Hispanic people that were coming into America to do what? To serve them. They said they were bringing in lice and disease and all this stuff. That's funny because a lot of the Native American peoples were killed from diseases that the white man brought. And you want to claim that the so-called Mexicans, the I.S.U.P.K tribes is bringing it in when all we're doing is helping your stinking nation? And they doused our brothers and sisters with like poisonous chemicals. Just doused them with it, and people were dying from this stuff. To a point where, like, when the brothers and sisters were like, we're not going to take this. We're not going to, we clean ourselves. You stinking heathens don't do that. Y'all take baths maybe once a week, maybe. When I seen this, but then were you the one that brought this up yesterday? Was it yesterday? It was Shapat that was saying that I saw the same video where this cave woman was saying how you shouldn't wash your body any more than than once every 3 days. If you wash your hair, you can wash your hair, and then the soap from the hair will trickle down and wash it. This is the concept of the oppressor. This is what they think. You do not take baths regularly. You don't have to take a bath regularly. You could just one of the Ashton Kutcher and his cave woman wife, forget her name, but they was on that 70s show. Anyway, they would say that they don't take baths regularly. They don't bathe their children regularly. They just hit the hot spots whenever they wake up or whatever. And then maybe once or twice a week, they'll take an actual shower. And you want to say that we're the so-called Israelite tribe, us, the Israel, who bathes regularly 2 and 3 times a day, are coming up and bringing in disease? Are you serious? Come on, man. Come on. Typhoid Betty. That came from Europe. A European woman. You know what I'm saying? You know what Typhoid Betty is? That's there was an outbreak of typhoid here in the States. And they claim it was a Typhoid Betty was a ground zero patient who like spread it out. And there was a lot of people, that was killed during this time of this pandemic. The Spanish flu of 1912, it killed like a quarter of the population of the earth. When I say Spanish flu, don't think of I.S.U.P.K. Don't think of Asher. Don't think of Zabalawan. Don't think of Simeon. No, Spaniard flu. They damn near killed the earth. I won't say it's like 1918. It was somewhere around World War I. It was somewhere around that time frame. And you want to say us? We don't bathe, we don't clean? The plague. The Black Plague, the bubonic plague that took out, millions of people when all they had to do was not only just clean, but carry the sewage away from the goddamn cities where you lay your head at. Speaking of which, this goes out to this person over here who's on the chat. You know what I'm saying? The bubonic plague started out because there was no real sewage treatment, right? And rats was the carrier of this disease. So the rats, carried it was made within the city because no one really cleaned up after themselves. No one really cleaned up after themselves, and this is in Europe. No one really cleaned up after themselves, and the rats carried it all around and damn near took out Europe during that time. You know what I'm saying? It killed so many people, damn near took out Europe. And those same conditions are happening right now in India. There's open sewage troughs, you know what I'm saying, running through the goddamn city. Running through major population. You ever seen what's the name of that movie? Slumdog Millionaire? You know what I'm saying? With them dirty ass kids who sleeping in the garbage dump. Not only that, this dude wanted to get to a movie star, so he jumped into a pile of crap. Jumped into a pile of crap. We are not these heathens. You understand? We are not these heathens. Now that was just an example of a movie. But I know for a fact you do not shake an Arab or Elamite's left hand. Ask me why. Go ahead. Ask me why.
I think I know why.
Go ahead. Take a shot. Take a shot. And hold on. Take a shot at why you do not shake a Arab or East Indian Elamite's hand, left hand. Why would that saying come about? And this is right on topic. Anybody in the chat can try and chime in and see why we don't do that.
I think that those people, they greet each other with their right hand and they clean themselves down low with the left. And when they use the bathroom, they wipe up with the left hand, but they don't wash.
Kind of, sort of. So, boy, if they're right-handed,
I don't know, sir.
This is what these nasty bastards do, and I'm not lying. You can go and find this out for your damn self. Google this information. Google this information. We're in information age, but this is why you do not shake an Arab or an East Indian's left hand. Nothing to do with they shake with whatever, they greet with the right hand. They clean themselves with their left hand. I'm not talking about taking some toilet paper and clean. They clean themselves with the hand. There is nothing between their hand and their hind parts when they clean themselves. They clean themselves with their left hand, and they'll take a napkin or something and try to wipe it away. That's what they do. That is not slander, because that is their way. That is their custom. That's what they teach their kids to do. What does the Most High say about interracial marriage? Do not do it. Why? Because they'll teach them to not follow the Most High's ways and follow the heathen ways. Follow, to worship other gods. We'll start celebrating Christmases. You know what I'm saying? We'll start eating pork. We'll start celebrating birthdays and New Year's and Ramadan. And then eventually we'll start wiping our behinds with our left hands. And a whole slew of other ungodliness that will cause typhoid and will cause syphilis and will cause bubonic plague and will cause kids to be born with 3 eyes and elephant legs. That happens on a daily basis in India. So don't ever try and tie the Lord's chosen people with heathens that wipe their hind parts with their hands. And it's not like it is a choice or drinks cow urine because they think it's holy. These people are some disgusting, nasty bastards. All these heathens are nasty. All of them. And their ways are not the ways of the Most High. Let's keep going.
Which also includes forced sterilization of people of Mexican descent and discrimination and internment of up to 120,000 people of Japanese descent during World War II.
Now you see that they included two examples of what California has done in their past, and they're saying this genocide was worse than those two things, right? The difference right here is they paid back, they gave reparations, or they gave something to say we apologize and we acknowledge what we did and we was wrong and we apologize to the Japanese American people during World War II. What did they do for the genocide of the Native Americans during this time? Nothing. What did they do to the forced sterilization of the Mexicans? Nothing. They was at war with the Japanese people, and there was a lot of Japanese people in California, so they rounded them up and said, "Y'all ain't going nowhere until this war is over." And it was like, "Well, my bad. We're sorry. We'll give you this." It was nothing really life-altering, life-threatening. They said, "Once the war is over, y'all can go," and that's exactly what they did. And then they apologized and gave them stuff, but with us, they gave us nothing. Why? Because they think we're nothing. They think we're nothing but 3/5 of a man. They think we're savages. They think we don't know how to communicate with people. They think we cannot learn. We do not have the capability of learning the greater things, the greater knowledges. But you know what? We learn that if you do not wash your hind parts on a regular basis, you will get diseases. Right. What's the saying? You lie down with dogs, you get fleas. Separate from these people. You will get their diseases. When the plagues was going on in Egypt, that didn't affect us. Why? Because we were physically separated from the masses of Egypt. We were physically separated. And once the final plague of Egypt came, it came over all of Egypt. But we were protected because we followed the Most High's commandments. We were told to put the blood of the lamb on the post of the door, and we did that, and we survived. That's the only way we survived, because we followed directions. We followed orders. The directions are: do not eat pork. Directions are: do not eat bat. People were eating bat. People were eating bat, and now the whole world is suffering through a global plague. In the midst of World War III, you see what's going on in the news, right?
I haven't been paying attention.
You see. Well, if you didn't know, Russia is planning to invade Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of chatter going on about, just type in W, and then you'll see World War III, about to come up. So a lot of stuff going on where Russia is about to show its might, you know what I'm saying, through the world. And apparently Joe Biden is sending troops over there, but that's not the topic of this discussion. We're talking about our people right here, right now, when actually, that stuff that's going over there, that's prophecy. World War III. Right. You know what's going to happen after World War III comes back? I can't wait. Can't wait. Exactly. That sky is going to crack. That sky is going to crack. Christ's going to come back. Let's keep going. Come
on. But before any of that, one of the new state's first priorities was to rid itself of its sizable Native American population, and it did so with a vengeance. California's native peoples had a long and rich history. Hundreds of thousands of Native Americans speaking up to 80 languages populated the area for thousands of years.
So hundreds of thousands of people, and then 80% of that was totally and utterly destroyed in a span of 20 years. In a span of 20 years. And that was, you read up earlier, it says that was their goal, to rid the population of Native Americans. I really don't even want to address this dude. Like, seriously, I don't want to address this dude. But I'm not. Let's just keep going. Let's keep going.
Another day.
Maybe not. Keep going.
In 1848, California became the property of the United States as one of the spoils of the Mexican-American War. Then in 1850, it became a state. For the state and federal government, it was imperative both to make room for new settlers and to lay claim to gold on traditional tribal lands.
So they found gold in them Dar Hills, and them Dar Hills what belonged to the Native Americans. They belong to the Native Americans, right? So, but it was the goal of the U.S. government to populate it with their own people. So they had to clear out the land. They lay claim to the land, which wasn't theirs, and they had to now clear it out. What does that sound like going on in the world today? Who else is doing that right now?
You mean coming into an area and pushing everybody out and taking it and making it their own?
Yeah. Who's doing that right now?
LGBTQI elemental P?
No.
They almost took over DC. Almost. You say Caucasians.
In specific, what tribe?
Oh, sorry.
Specific, what tribe is doing that right now?
Can you ask that question one more time, sir?
Okay, yeah, no sweat. So we just read how it was imperative for them both to make new room for them to make room for new settlers and to lay claim. This is not really what I'm talking about, and to lay claim on gold and traditional tribal lands. So they're trying to push the people out so that they can put their own people in. The people that were there, they want them to get out so that they can put their own people in there. What tribe of people? Because you said, you know, it was Edomites. What tribe of Edomites is doing that right now?
Tribal. Is it the Ashkenazi?
Exactly. Zionist. Yeah. The so-called Jew out in the Middle East is doing that right now to the Palestinians. They made an agreement with them and says, this is our land, this is your land. And then every now and again, they'll go into those lands and be like, you know what, this is y'all don't belong here. This is our land. They take over whole towns and villages and kick everybody out and then put their people in. That's what they're doing right now. That's what they're doing right now. The Zionist movement is doing that right now. And as you can see, they were doing that back then. They were doing that in biblical times as well. The leopard does not change his spots.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Slakia. Hold on 1 second, Salakia. Keep reading.
Come. And settlers themselves, motivated by bigotry and fear of native peoples, were intent on removing the approximately 150,000 Native Americans who remained.
Okay. So of them that remained was about 150,000 people. Give me Ecclesiastes 7 and 13. Just like I said, a leopard cannot change its spots. You cannot change the nature of a specific people. And right now, the Elamites are, and they've always been, some disgusting, nasty, dirty people. How do I know this? Just look at the way they live in. You know what I'm saying? The what they call what we call dreadlocks, and how the way we put our spin on it is not how the way they do it. And it came from them. It came from them. Those locks, those natted hair came from them. And the way we put our spin on it looks a whole lot better, but it is still not of the Most High. It is of them. And that nasty, matted, dirty hair that they have is an absolute disgusting thing. Absolute disgusting thing. You cannot change your spots. A leopard cannot change his spots. Read what you got. And this goes to the Zionists, to the Edomites that are laying claim to other people's lands as their own. Why? Because the Most High calls him a vagabond, a man, a people without a home. They go from place to place, taking and looting and destroying what is not theirs. That's what they are. That's what they've always been. That's what they always will know. I can't say that's what they always will be, because in the future they will be nothing but servants and slaves, and the lowest among them. Of all the nations, they will be the lowest among all nations. And then after a time, after they serve their sentence, there will be no more. It's not my words. I'm not saying that. I'm speaking out of the words of the Bible. This is the words of the Most High. That's prophecy. And what we're seeing right now in Europe, how the way they're building up, that's prophecy too. But read what you got about the oppressor right now.
Come. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 13. Consider the work of God, for who can make that straight which he hath made crooked?
So the Most High says what?
For who can make that straight which he hath made crooked?
So who could make that straight which he has made crooked? The Most High makes a vessel of honor, and he makes a vessel of dishonor within the same lump of clay. He can make one a vessel where that can hold food, which can be honorable, and then he could make a vessel, a piss pot, a vessel of dishonor from that same lump of clay. The Most High made all peoples on the earth. And right now, that our oppressor is nothing but a vessel of dishonor. He made them crooked. That's according to the scripture. How can we change? How can you Christians say, well, anybody can change? You know what I'm saying? Anybody can be right. But the most like the scripture says, not me. Scripture says the Most High made them crooked. The Most High made them have forced sterilization of the Mexicans. The Most High made them crooked, so where they come up with deviancies where they'll smash babies' heads against the rock. Well, they'll have deviancies where they'll think it's okay to pillage another people for what? For what? Some people will say, well, they'll do it for resources, and no, they just do it because they're lustful bastards, and that's what they lust after. They lust after killing people. They lust after hurting and destroying another people for their own personal gain, or just for nothing at all. The Most High made them crooked for them to think of that type of deviancy. They thought of that deviancy. They don't think, hey, we can all get along. They spout that BS so that we can put them ahead of us, and then so that they can do more atrocities to us. They don't mean nothing. Like we read earlier, never trust thine enemies. They are snakes in the grass, laying wait for you to come close enough for you to for them to strike us. That's all. That's all. Keep reading the article, Baba Kashaw. We ain't gonna get to the next article.
Whites are becoming impressed with the belief that it will be absolutely necessary to exterminate the savages before they can labor much longer in the mines with security.
So hold on. So they wanted to kill the so-called Native Americans just so that they can mine in peace. When the gold has been there this whole time, Native Americans knew about it, but we didn't put that much value on it where, it's the most precious thing on the face of the earth. We put our people as the most precious thing on the face of the earth. You know what I'm saying? That's how we looked at each other. We didn't look at gold and silver as these things that everything that it was the utmost highest thing that, you know, that we had in our possession. That's not how the way we looked at it. Hold this and go to the other article, and I want you to go down to California statehood and genocide, and I want you to start at, because we're talking about policy and how the way our oppressor dealt with the Native Americans. Because right now they're saying they wanted to kill them just so that they can mine in peace. That's what they said. So we're going to read exactly. Some of the things that the government implemented, that the California government implemented to ensure that so-called peace and dwindle the Native American community within California by 80% within 20 years. Give me that second paragraph where it says the California Act for the Government and Protection of Indians.
The California Act for the Government and Protection of Indians was enacted in 1850.
Now, hold on. It says, you know, for government and protection of Indians. We're going to see how the way they say they protected our brothers and sisters. Now, it was enacted in 1850. Keep reading.
Amended 1860.
And it was changed. They had some sort of change to it 10 years later. All right, keep going. This is still during active slavery, chattel slavery in the United States. Keep going.
Repealed 1863.
So they done away with it in 1863. But keep going. Let's see what was in these acts of protection for the Indians, so-called Indians. Keep reading.
This law provided for apprenticing.
So what's apprenticing?
Teaching the youngest.
Teaching the youngest. So this is directly to the children. It's directed to the children. So right in the article it says apprenticing. That was the legal word for what they're about to do to these kids. Keep going.
Or indenturing Indian children to whites.
What in the world is that? What does it say? What is they saying?
Child slave labor.
Child slave labor. They basically, and they said indenturing the children to the whites. In Canada, I want to say, I know it happens in Canada. I'm not 100% sure if it happened in the continental United States, but they had something called resident schools where they forcibly took the Native American children and put them into these schools and essentially brainwashed them. They wanted to, their idea, the idea of residential schools, and I want to get into that, you know, on another day. But the idea of residential schools was, if we cannot physically kill them, the Native Americans, they were saying, if we cannot physically kill them, we're going to breed them out. And when they said we're going to breed them out, we're going to take the generation, the young generation, separate them from their family, and teach them essentially white supremacy. Breed all of the Native American Indian out of them, where they cannot speak their language, they cannot practice their customs. If they did any of that thing that they were supposed to do, that they did while they were home, they were punished, they were beaten, they were raped, they were molested. Anything out of the norm of white society, it was beaten out of them. It was raped out of them. It was molested out of them. And then once they got to age 18 or whatever, they sent them back. Whereas if the families wanted to talk to them in their language, it was beaten into them that they cannot talk that language. Their hair was cut. You know, they had to dress the way that they were taught to in these residential schools, so they couldn't wear their traditional garb. All their customs, they had to celebrate Christmas. What is that? What does that sound like? That sounds like the Greeks or I should say that sounds like the Israelites in Greece. What's the term for it?
Hellenization.
Exactly. They were being Hellenized. They were taking the children and breeding out their culture. and installing white supremacy essentially into them. So that when they actually got back, because when they got back to their families, their tribes, their people, they were considered outcasts. They were considered pariah because they couldn't speak the language. They didn't look like them. They didn't dress like them. They didn't celebrate the same things that they celebrated. They were pariah. And then they try to go into the white community and they were savages. So they were like two-time losers, not by their own, fault. They were taken. It was law. I don't think you understand it. It was law for the Native Americans to give them up to residential schools. And if they didn't give them up, the law actually came in and snatched them out. Or the parents went to jail. There are stories about where they would kidnap the kids. Straight up kidnap them. They'll see them walking down. Hey, let's go get some ice cream or whatever. They'll get in the car and take them to the residential school. The Native Americans will try and file a police report or whatever, try and look for them, and they wouldn't look for them. Or they knew where they were and they wouldn't tell them. Or they would tell them, like, there's nothing you can do. They can't be home. They have to be in these residential schools. So this is in part what they did. This is the act of protecting the Native American Indians. A government act to protect the Native American Indian children, indenturing or apprenticing these kids to white families, breeding out the Native American. And this happened in, like I said, I know it happened in Canada. The last residential school closed down in the early 90s. I want to say like 94 or 92. Everybody knows someone who was alive during that time. Right now, if you're hearing this, everybody knows somebody who was alive during that time. And I did not know how, because, we learned how when slaves ran away, escaped from the slave master here in America, they went north. You know what I'm saying? Some of them stayed in the northern states. Some of them went even further to Canada. I didn't know how bad the Native Americans had it in Canada till I actually went there. I thought, the Canadians was a good, nice people. That is until I actually came into the truth, and I did a little digging and pulled back the curtain, or as the scriptures say, wipe the glass away to see how bad they were. Ecclesiasticus 10 and 13 or 14. You can read that on your own. You just wipe the looking glass to see how they are, how they really are. There's a reason why we say the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. There's a reason why. Just look at their actions. Look at their policy. Look how the way they live. Look how the way they treat other peoples, other nations. When I say other nations, they treat every other nation on the face of the earth better than the Lord's chosen people. And there is a reason for that, because we turn our face from the Most High. We're in this predicament because we turned away from our power. Only way for the Most High to get back to accept us back in is to follow His law, statutes, and commandments. Only way for us to be redeemed, to have justice for us, because we cannot get justice on our own. We cannot tool up. We cannot, come together and put our resources together and then, buy land somewhere and then have our own government somewhere else, or even within, this landmass that we're in. Still is going to fail if we do not have the Most High. If we do not have the Most High, all of our efforts will fail, and they will still win. That's scripture. That's prophecy. We want redemption. We want justice for the way they did our children. We want justice the way they do our children. They do our women. They do our men. We have to turn to our power, the Most High, law, statutes, and commandments. let's keep going with this the act of government and protection for the Indians. So what they did was they kidnapped the Native American children. Keep going.
God. This law provided for apprenticing or indenturing Indian children to whites, and also punished vagrant Indians by hiring them out to the highest bidder at a public auction if the Indian could not provide sufficient bond or bail.
Now, this actually, like this, they took this structure from no, I can't say that because this happened after the Civil War, after the slaves were so-called emancipated. This very structure happened, you know, to the slaves, the ex-slaves. We had no land. We had no we had no way of earning for ourselves, even though we were the literal skilled labor. We were the skilled labor force. We had no way to, because no one would hire us, right? We couldn't, we didn't have any land, right? So we were called vagrants, right? So what they did was they enacted laws. If you're not working, because they didn't hire us, if you were a vagrant, we'd had no land. We had to sleep wherever we could get. They would throw us in jail. And when they threw us in jail, they would put a stupid number on this bond. You know what I'm saying? They'll put a stupid number in today's terms. Let's just say it will be, and at that time it wasn't no 10%. You had to pay the whole thing. Let's just say $150,000. So like in today's time, that would be a $15,000 bond, right? Most Black, Hispanic, Native Americans don't have $15,000 just laying around. All right, let me get up out of jail, let alone $150,000. So the oppressor would come in and say, all right, I'll pay this bond. Now we're hired out to that oppressor and we have to work for them until we pay off that bond. We pay off that debt. Oh, and there's interest included in that. And we earn but a fraction every day. So it would take a whole lifetime to pay off that bill, that debt. That's the laws that they put into place for us. So these vagrants that they hired the Native American Indians, and what it constituted a vagrant, it varied from state to state. But in this case, I want to you can read on it yourself. If you stayed in a certain place for a certain amount of time, you were considered a vagrant, and then they could legally lock you up and put these stupid number bail on you, and of course those numbers you couldn't pay for it, and if you could pay for it, that helped them out. So they would let you out and then follow you around until you stay within that limit, and then arrest you again. Those are the games that they played. So this was actual law, and this law was to protect Indians. But who's benefiting off of this? They got the children being servants to whites. They got so-called vagrants being, being slave labor to whites. Who is benefiting off of this? Are they protecting the Native Americans? No, they're not protecting us at all. At all. Keep going.
This legalized the form of slavery in California.
Legalized a form of slavery. And after that, like I said, this was a law. Legal slavery. Legally. And even after that, they structured the 13th Amendment to permanently legalize slavery. How many of y'all know that? Slavery is still legal in the United States under the Constitution of the United States. All you have to do, I told this when I was just coming into the truth. I told this oppressor that slavery was legal. He was like, no, it's not. I was like, yes, it is. I was like, and then I told him that, the 13th Amendment, and then he was like, and then he just walked away. Just walked away. Like you cannot argue facts with your Constitution. This is your Constitution. something that you hold near and dear to your heart. And you didn't even know that slavery was still legal. I didn't know slavery was still legal until I came into the truth. I didn't know that. What do you mean slavery is still legal? Slavery can't be legal. They abolished it. No, they did not. They made exception for it. And with that exception is put into the DNA of the United States of America. The U.S. Constitution is the DNA of the United States of America. It was founded on this very belief, on killing another people, enslaving them, and then building their own kingdom with that slave labor. Do you know how many I had to stop? Serious, Slakia. Confession is the truth. You know what I'm saying? It frees you, right? I had to stop looking at companies who participated in the slave labor of the prison system. Why? Because I was the type of person. I am the type of person. If I see that, I'm not going to mess with that company anymore. And the list of companies is long, and most of them I use. You know what I'm saying? I use on a daily basis. If you want, I'm not saying you can't boycott them, but if you did, you're gonna have to make damn near everything. You know, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to make damn near everything. You can't use your phone, you can't use the service, you can't use internet. You know what I'm saying? You can't use gas. You can't you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to make gypsum board to build your house. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to make your own nails, you're gonna have to make your own guns. You know what I'm saying? You have to process your own food. There's the list of list of companies that uses slave labor is long and exhausting. America has been built on slave labor, and there's nothing that has changed since the so-called Emancipation Proclamation. It's just put into the DNA. The scripture says that if I get that. You know what I'm talking about? Hold on. I'm gonna give. Hold on 1 second. Keep reading the article if you could, Baba Shaw.
Come. White settlers took 10,000 to 27,000 California Native Americans as forced laborers, including 4,000 to 7,000 children.
How many children?
4,000 to 7,000 children.
That's the nature of our oppressor, right there. That's the nature of our oppressor. Selling children into slave labor. That's what they did. That's what they do. That's how they're built. The Most High says, "Who can make straight what I have made crooked?" That's exactly who they are. Right? Keep going.
Come. A notable early eyewitness testimony and account, The Indians of California, 1864, is from John Ross Brown, customs official and inspector of Indian affairs on the Pacific coast. He systematically described the fraud, corruption, land theft, slavery, rape, and massacre perpetuated on a substantial portion of the Aboriginal population. This was confirmed by contemporary Superintendent Dorcas J. Spencer.
Get me Genesis 3:1. This is the nature. We're gonna close out on this. This is the nature of the oppressor. This is the nature of our enemy, according to the Most High. The Most High calls him our enemy. It's not what I'm calling them. This is what the Most High calling them. You got it?
Come. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. This right here is talking about the spirit of Esau. Spirit of Esau is more subtle. Anybody ever heard of that saying? If you sign a contract, you must read the fine print. That's because of Esau. That right there, it's because of Esau. Scripture says, "Let your yeas be yeas and your nays be nays." You don't got to read no goddamn fine print to try and get somebody. If that's this is another reason why the Most High says never trust your enemy. Never trust your enemy, because there's always going to be some fine print on how to get up out of the for them to stab you in the back. Always. Says what?
Verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field.
Than any beast of the field, right? Keep going.
Come. Which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman,
which the Lord God had made. Goes back to the other scripture. Just like I said earlier, in order to read the Bible, you have to read it precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. You know where I'm getting at? What is this saying about another precept I brought out earlier? Basically, all right, just for time's sake, he's saying that the Lord God had made this beast, this serpent, is supposed to be the most subtle of all the earth. The Most High in Ecclesiastes, what is that? 7? Ecclesiastes 7:13. He says, who can make straight what he had made crooked? He made this beast. He made our oppressor. He made the devil. No one could turn him straight. The Most High wanted him to be crooked, just like he is crooked. He is going to be crooked. And we are going to suffer that if we do not follow the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments. We do not follow his order. That order to never trust our enemy was to protect us, to keep us in power. What does he do? He takes our babies and kidnaps them and puts them in white supremacist systems. He labels us as vagrants and then puts us into slavery. He takes our women and children and rapes women and children. If you read this article, it tells you exactly how. If you read this article, it tells you exactly how and how long they did all of this evil and wicked, disgusting things to us, and how that our people were murdered, and our people were starved, and our people were killed by disease, and exactly how they did it to get the number to be decreased by 80% within 20 years. Why? Because we should never trust our enemies. Who can make straight what the Most High has made crooked? No one. And our oppressor is crooked, and we should never trust them. With that, I pass the class to Trooper Pakaibawa.
Security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K. out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahanna. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shut themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or a sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, and Malachi, chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. Means tenth in Hebrew and is pronounced ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation. Purim, 14th day and the 15th day of the 12th month. It's Monday, the 14th day of February, and Tuesday, the 15th day of February, 2022. You can find this in the book of Esther, chapter 9, verses 20 through 31. Remind Akim and Akwathian to check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, use to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, black shirts, black pants, black headband, or scarf. And with that, I say Imanium, which means to stand. We'll give one courtesy salute to the teacher, men of Israel. Imanium, Shabbat, Imanium, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatah.
Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatah.
Yahya Matah, class dismissed.